And this is Good News with Dick Baumbach. Hey, Dick, how you doing today?
I am doing good. And by the way, after we talked last week, I didn't bring you lunch, but this lady, maybe she'll help us out.
I am so excited about this lead-in story because this one it's just really amazing that this young man, what he did was just amazing. And I'm not going to keep anybody in any more suspense. Let's just go right into it.
Okay, this happened in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And Josette Duran, she assumed that her son wanted more to eat because he asked if he could take 2 lunches to school. He's in elementary school. And so she said, okay. And then she kept asking, and she said, well, why do you want 2? He said, well, there's a boy that all he has is a fruit cup every day, and he sits by himself. Well, she couldn't believe it, so she packed 2 lunches, and he went and he would give the boy, and they ended up sitting next to each other. And his mom was eventually called to the principal's office at the request of the other boy's mother to thank her and to pay for the lunches, because now that mom was back and had a job.
Oh, wow.
And
what a story.
But what's really great is the school volleyball team that the mom, Duran, coaches. They donated $400 to the cafeteria for food for kids who can't afford food.
Wow,
yeah.
That is a really good story. You know, I was really glad to hear how this one turned out, because there was another story from out, I think, in California, about where the school lunchroom worker was paying for lunches for kids that couldn't get the lunch, and she was fired. Oh. She was fired for doing that. Oh. And there was such an outpouring and such an uproar over that, they had to hire her back.
Wow.
Yeah, they had some rule or some law out there that said that they couldn't do this. And it's like, how could you have a law or a rule like that?
That's crazy.
It's really crazy. Speaking of crazy, this next one sounds like it's kind of crazy. 170 nations celebrate a pledge to eliminate super harmful greenhouse gases.
This happened last Saturday, and 170 different countries signed a global pact to pare down on environmentally harmful chemicals known as HFCs, hydrofluorocarbons.
Are those the same things like that used to be in air conditioners?
That's correct. That's exactly right.
Yep.
And the deal was solidified between the U.S., China, India, Argentina, Chile, Colombia, European Union countries. They all came together, and they did it in Rwanda and said, we are no longer going to allow this to happen. We are going to work to stop it.
Wow. Now, how do you think they're going to be able to enforce that?
I don't want to get into politics.
No, we won't talk about politics, but that always seems like, you know, these are great things that we do, but it boils down to how do you enforce these things?
Well, what they're basically going to do, they have a $27 million initial budget, and they're going to have a special fund created to fast start the implementation, and they're going to check every year to see how each country has.
That's a good start. That's really a good start. At least they've identified a budget for it.
Yeah.
Normally, you know, you see this and it's like, okay, there's no budget, there's no enforcement, there's everybody feels good, but there's nothing that gets done because there's no money for it. The next one that you have is a cop who saved choking infant is asked to be her godfather.
Yep. This was a dispatch call in Meriwether, Georgia, and Lieutenant Kenneth Knox, he got the call because he was very close by where the call came from, and it was an infant child named Mai Vahi Pocham and was choking on a piece of cereal. The parents had tried CPR, but she was turning blue and fading fast. Knox, he did reverse CPR and was able to get the piece of food out of her throat, and then the baby started smiling and crying.
Oh, wow.
And he said, Knox said that was music to his ears. And out of his 25 years of being a police officer, it was his greatest and most profound moment, that what he did. The parents, they asked if he would be the godfather.
Oh, wow.
And he
That's
said
amazing.
He is honored for that.
That's amazing. You know, my one nephew is a deputy sheriff, and I just sent him a clip of a police officer. He was sitting there in a lobby, and this kid that he had saved from drowning at 5 years old walks in. He's a grown man now, and yeah, it was very emotional.
Wow.
And it was the first time they had seen each other since that time.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. Now, this next one, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through this without crying, because this was an amazing, amazing story. It's about a teen who dashes down the bleachers to lift the spirits of a crying cheerleader. And this story just really tugged at my heart, I'll tell you.
Well, this happened in San Antonio, Texas, a week and a half ago. And Addie Rodriguez, she's on the cheerleading squad, and it was during a routine that she's by the way 9 years old, and she started crying, and during a special portion of the routine, because what was happening is the fathers of all the cheerleaders were coming out to lift their daughters, but her father was at a military base in California for training.
Yeah, he had just been deployed out there.
Right. And this ROTC senior high schooler, Matthew Garcia, he ran down from the bleachers, lifted her in the air, and Addie, she was in shock at first, but then she just knelt down and say, "I'm going to pick you up. You really made me happy. Thank you."
Yeah, that was an amazing story. I tell you, I can't talk too much about it because it chokes me up pretty good. Yeah. But what an amazing young man to identify that and go do that.
Well, and the thing is to think about it, Jeff, all of these stories we've said over the months, how these are just ordinary people who think they're doing something ordinary.
It's all good news.
Yeah.
All good news. What do you have for us next week?
Well, we have somebody who shattered the glass ceiling at 36,000 feet. That's all I'll say.
Let's leave it right there. That sounds like a very intriguing story. So everybody's going to have to tune in next week to hear what happened at 36,000 feet. This has been Good News with Dick Baumbach.